The Pacific, stretching over 155 million square kilometers. The Oceania region consists of thousands of islands and is home to millions of people. The island nations across the Pacific feature some of the most diverse and rich geographical features in the world. But the greatest asset of these islands, their people. With ancient cultures and traditions, family and community are what brings them together. What is unique is that the Pacific is itself a community. It's an archipelago of friendship and community forged over centuries. These close relationships form the basis of a defense cooperation program. The DCP, as it's called, was established by the Australian government in the 1970s, with the aim of strengthening defense and police forces across the Pacific, enabling them to be equipped and prepared for the future. Now, after 50 years of operation, what has the DCP achieved? And what does the future hold for the DCP? To find the answer, let's look at what has been done to date. We'll begin our story in Fiji, where the rebuilding of the Lekutu Secondary School after tropical cyclone Yasa leads to strengthened ties across the community and across the world.
Yasa cyclone did a lot of damage, emotionally and physically.
We'll visit the Solomon Islands, where the delivery of a key piece of new equipment will help clean up unexploded ordnance littering the islands, a deadly legacy of World War II.
Rent-a-safe procedures operations is really tiring, and this piece of equipment would really help the team.
In Tonga, we'll visit royalty and hear about the strong ties between Pacific partners.
I think it's important for Pacific states to have a common purpose.
In Papua New Guinea, we will learn about the re-emergence of the nation's air transport wing.
It's about people-to-people relationship, and that's something I strongly emphasize.
Over in Vanuatu, we'll meet the people who kept their families fed throughout the pandemic thanks to the construction of new police facilities.
We have this opportunity to keep on working when others couldn't.
And we'll see what changes the new National Emergency Radio Network is set to bring across the country. We'll head out to sea, where Guardian-class patrol boats are navigating new challenges, with maritime patrols helping to secure Pacific economies.
It's been more important these days to secure our waters.
And learn about Operation Bushfire Assist, when Pacific nations came to the aid of Australia during one of its darkest hours.
It was a very devastating time for the Australians. Our deployment there was timely. We start our story in Fiji, where the partnerships built on the foundation of the DCP were put to the test following the devastating tropical cyclone Yasa in 2020. The same year that the COVID-19 pandemic closed borders across the world.
COVID-19 is now a widespread global pandemic. These new travel restrictions are the strongest and widest reaching in Fijian history.
Fiji also had to deal with the effects of one of the most destructive cyclones in years. Homes and schools were destroyed in moments, with widespread flooding and damaging effects on crops and businesses. After the cyclone was gone, leaving destruction in its wake, a humanitarian and disaster relief response swung into action. Valina Kaskavalitu, head of the languages department at the Lekutu Secondary School, was there when the school was almost completely destroyed by Cyclone Yasa.
The experience about Yasa was so memorable, and it was also devastating to see the amount of destruction that it caused to the school. Yasa cyclone did a lot of damage emotionally and physically for the people of Lekutu. I was one of those who were here during the cyclone, when the cyclone hit Lekutu. All of us, the members of the community, those parents and students, and also government employees from Nakandrundu government station, we all came here for the evacuation, because this was one of the evacuation centers here at Lekutu. And we were in the last classroom, the year 13 classroom. And where we were looking from, we thought we were the first one to be hit from the direction the wind was coming. But then after leaving year 13 classroom, then we realized that all the other classrooms had been blown down.
When the winds died down, those who had been sheltering in the year 13 classroom walked out into a scene of devastation. Despite the wreckage around them, the people of Lekutu never lost hope, with the members of the Australian Defence Force working under the Defence Cooperation Program deployed to Lekutu to assist the Republic of Fiji military forces teams in the disaster response. Captain Paolo Bilitaki is a battle captain and works with the engineers with the Republic of Fiji military forces.
The thing with Fiji is that we have particular season for hurricane. So when there's a cyclone season, we have a standby team that is available throughout the cyclone season in case there's a need for deployment. The Lekutu school, because they were in the path of the cyclone, it was one of the schools that was very severely damaged during the cyclone season. So we had a team based out of Lekutu. That initially was the phase where we put up temporary shelters. Then with assistance of our Australian counterparts, that was deployed with us in Lekutu. I know it was a challenge. It was very challenging for the boys that came from the ADF, because they had to spend time away from their family during Christmas and New Year. But we were very thankful for them for their efforts on their job.
Over the next 2 years, the Lekutu Secondary School was rebuilt in a combined effort between the Republic of Fiji military forces, Australian Defence Force, New Zealand Defence Force, and the French Armed Forces in New Caledonia. For Lieutenant Colonel Eroni Dwabe, the Lekutu School reconstruction was an example of the long-standing relationship between Fiji and Australia.
I had went there when the construction was going on in the initial phases of the construction. We had the RFMF, we had the ADF, some New Zealand, some French. I really appreciate the fact that we could use a project to be able to harness the efforts of various defense forces. And I really think that with the ADF taking the lead role in that school, the engineering practices that the ADF follow is something that we can learn from.
Between the RFMF and the Australian Defence Force, August last year. The first phase lasted for 3 months until November, which included the groundwork.
The relationship between Fiji and Australia goes way back, not only on a political and a diplomatic level, but more so in the defense space. As we speak, I firmly believe that the relationship between the Republic of Fiji military forces and the Australian Defence Force has reached a level that we have never reached before.
Head of Lekutu's secondary school, Suresh Sharma, who started his new job at the school not long after the cyclone hit, is excited for his students' futures.
There was massive destruction done to this institution. When the Australian government stepped in, everything normalized and all the students came back to the classroom. Now the kids are back to the classroom, and now the education, teaching and learning has begun. And we are producing literate and numerate kids now. Before they used to stay home, now they're coming back to the school to gain some knowledge.
To the northwest of Fiji lies the Solomon Islands, a group of islands between Papua New Guinea and Vanuatu, with over 5,300 kilometers of coastline. During World War II, Guadalcanal in the Solomon Islands was the scene of fierce fighting between Allied and Japanese forces. The legacy of these battles is still felt today, with the Solomon Islands littered with unexploded ordnance. Each year, numerous people are killed or seriously injured by explosives that are often unseen and buried deep in the ground. They can be set off by people cooking fires or fishing, or can be exposed after rainfall. With hundreds of thousands of bombs dropped and millions of rounds of ammunition fired during World War II, Operation Render Safe works across the Southwest Pacific, carefully recovering and safely disposing of explosive remnants, making the land and sea safer for all. Overseeing the Royal Solomon Islands Police Force Explosive Ordnance Disposal Section is Inspector Clifford Tunuki. Today, he is supervising the arrival of a new high-mobility engineering excavator that will boost police capacity to extract explosive remnants, or UXO. It's part of a package of support delivered under the Defense Cooperation Program.
So this machine is designed especially for UXO operations, especially when the team going out into the jungle, doing some UXO clearance. We use that machine to dig, and it is a well-protected, bomb-proof equipment. We'll use this piece of equipment to go out and conduct render-safe procedures, operations, especially out in Honiara or in Guadalcanal. Render-safe procedures, operations is really tiring, and this piece of equipment would really help the team moving forward with their operations.
Supervising the arrival of the new excavator is Lance Corporal Bell from the School of Military Engineering in Australia.
So this machine brings a all-round capability. The team will get called out to dispose of explosive ordnance. From there, this particular bit of kit can obviously utilise its various attachments to unearth that explosive device. And then from a construction and a plant capability, can then move that obstacle and keep the team nice and safe. Yeah, definitely, it was what I've heard, very big effort to get it here, but a lot of smiling faces when it rolled off the plane, me especially. So yeah, I was happy that it landed.
With the excavator's safe arrival, the ADF will work with the RSIPF on training around how to operate the machinery, as well as continue to further develop the capacity of the Solomon Islands Police to safely store and dispose of ordnance, helping to keep the locals safe from harm. Defense leaders across the Pacific have benefited from training and mentoring through the DCP. This includes personnel in the early stages of their careers through to Pacific royalty. His Royal Highness Crown Prince Tupotua Ulukalala of Tonga followed in the footsteps of his father, King Tupou VI, when he studied in Australia.
Before I undertook my studies under the Defense Cooperation Program, my father did tell me it's going to be a lot of reading. It was an understatement. It was a privilege for me to study with other officers from Pacific nations, Pacific Defense Forces, not only at our own level, but at the more senior levels, for both from majors and also for colonels. For example, from Papua New Guinea, Defense Forces, and also the Republic of Fiji military forces. I thought it reinforced how defense relationships are with them. For example, Fijians or just our neighbors. When we meet during defense meetings, it's always a good connection point when we tell them, "Oh yes, I know your officer. I went together to staff college with him." I think that's always a good icebreaker, a good point to start our meetings, and it always keeps it going. I think it's important for Pacific states to have a common purpose because we're interdependent on each other for our security. Not only that, we all suffer from the same things. The Defense Cooperation Program also helps develop us to be more resilient against our challenges. I think for myself, I believe the Defense Cooperation Program enabled me to fulfill my potential and my ability to do my job here, which I wouldn't be able to do without.
Thousands of kilometers across the Pacific, Lieutenant Colonel Boniface Aruma from the PNG Defence Force, who in 2024 will start as the Deputy Commander of the Australian Army's 3rd Brigade in Townsville, is another example of the DCP investment in developing Pacific defence leaders.
I'm actually, a product of the Defense Cooperation Program. So coming through as a cadet, doing cadet training over at Dantron, getting commissioned, and then later coming back on a secondment posting to do time as an instructor at the Royal Military College, and then all my other courses, including qualifications courses done at the War College. Defense Cooperation Program has played a significant part in my personal, professional military education. The professional military education is one of the cornerstones of really transforming an organization. And I think one of the heavy investment as far as DCP is concerned is investing in quality training and education of, soldiers and officers alike. And without this professional military education, I wouldn't be able to be where I am today and do the things that I'm doing. It's because of the exposure and the training that I have received over the years, and the exposure that I've gained from not just on the course, but rubbing shoulders with other Australians, Kiwis, Brits, officers from across the region and Southeast Asia, just to, get their view and their perspectives on certain issues when we discuss things, and just building that connections, when I go to Indonesia, I've got people that I know. When I go to Malaysia, I've got officers I know. Thailand, Vietnam, and that's connections that I've made during my time attending courses in Australia. One day, you never know. You might be in a position where you can just pick up a phone and say, "Look, can you help out here?" And so connections is very, very powerful. And I think the platform that DCP creates here to bring students from across the Pacific and Southeast Asia to come and train here, it speaks volumes about, establishing the relationship and creating a peaceful, stable region. And relationship is very, very important. We treasure the relationship we have with Australia, the Defence Cooperation Program, because Australia has been a part of us pre-independence and post-independence. In fact, most of what you see now that is known as PNG Defence Force is what has been set up pre-independence by the Australian Defence Force. Majority of our men and women are trained and qualified to Australian standards. PNG Defence Force, we want to be Australia's credible partner. We want to have, invaluable inputs within the region, but we can't get there alone. We cannot do it unilaterally, and we will forever need our partners to support us to get there, and Australia features very prominently in there.
Military training has both professional and personal benefits. Second Lieutenant Marika Nauporto of the Republic of Fiji Military Forces is just starting his career after spending 4 years training with the Australian Defence Force in Canberra.
I did my basic recruit straight out of high school down at our force training group. And then from there, we got told that there was a position at ADFA, which is the officer training school in Canberra. I got chosen to do my officer training there. And then from there, I've just been posted to our infantry battalion here. It was a good experience, both for the military side and also my personal side as well, in terms of like getting experience to the culture, the people, the way of life there. I think it's definitely an important sort of program and a vital program that they have running at the moment, just in terms of sort of building that bond between not just the militaries, but both nations as well. I see the partnership as sort of like a stepping stone into more that we can do for each other. And same thing with like joint exercises. Yeah, I think it's definitely a vital part of this partnership that Fiji and Australia share. And I think, yeah, as you go into the future, it'll definitely just build from there. So, yeah.
Papua New Guinea is part of one of the largest islands in the South Pacific. As Australia's closest neighbour, their long-lasting relationship has been vital to maintaining the security of the region. The PNG Defence Force is in a period of rebuilding its air capability, and at the helm of this is Lieutenant Colonel Nancy Wee. After becoming Papua New Guinea's first female commercial pilot at the age of 21, Lieutenant Colonel Wee joined the PNG Defence Force in 2005, rising through the ranks to become the first female commanding officer in the history of the country's defence force in 2022.
The relationship between Australia and PNG is very, very important. The Defence Cooperation Program is very important, and it's in my time here, I have seen it been very, very helpful to the air transport wing. In a wider aspect on the PNG Defence Force, it has been helpful in that, the exchanges and what we learn from our partners and what they give to us, assist us in. the Australian government has bought 2 PEC 750s for us, add on to our fleet, where we had one before, so that's 3. We have pilots that are, training and that have qualified. We have engineers that are qualified, so there's a lot of examples to show for. It's about people-to-people relationship, and that's something I strongly emphasize on. They can bring so much money, so much equipment, so much. It would not have meaning unless the people that are handling it and dealing with it have that very, very close relationship. And we have seen that, like I said, in the last 5 years. And I am very positive that moving forward, we're going to develop a more closer relationship, more understanding, because our cultures are so different. And I really give it to the Australians who are here with us, because as long as we are in Australia and PNG and the continent doesn't move, we will always be close together, and it's good to have that relationship going forward.
Wing Commander Tim Shaw is a Royal Australian Air Force flying instructor posted to the Air Transport Wing and has been involved in the Defence Cooperation Program since the 1990s.
Australia and PNG have had a long history of relationship, particularly through the Defence Cooperation Program. I was with the Defence Cooperation Program back in the 90s. So I've had a long association with training PNG pilots, and I always had an affinity with the country and the people. And so I'm thoroughly enjoying training the PNG pilots again, and not only the pilots, but the maintenance team and the executive team and so on. So we're rebuilding the PNG's aviation capability with flying aircraft operations and supporting aircraft operations with the logistic, the engineering tail, not just the pilot side of it as well. Capability is not just an aeroplane flying, it's all the other bricks that lead to that aircraft getting serviceable and flying in the air.
Some of the pilots being trained by Wing Commander Shaw are commercial pilots who have transitioned to the military. One of these new pilots is Lieutenant Quentin Hiawani, who is undertaking the pilot conversion course.
Currently, the training with Wing Commander Shaw has gone quite well. We started off with one aircraft, PEC 750, which is Phoenix 701. Started off well, and now with the aircrafts that have been given by the people of Australia, DCP, through DCP programs, it has helped a lot, helped us a lot. He's very, very patient with us, and he has taught us so many stuff. We're very, really grateful to having him. The DCP program has helped us a lot in coming back to our feet and getting airborne again, and probably would speak on behalf of the other pilots that we are really grateful for the program and the Flight of Excellence.
When I was here in the 1990s with Air Transport Squadron back then, I had the privilege of training a number of other PNG pilots, and now I've come back 20 plus years later, and now I'm training their sons, and there's 2 of the guys here that I trained their fathers, and so that's just a fantastic feeling, and another part of that relationship building between myself, personally in this case, and the PNG Defence Force and the people that we associate with.
Vanuatu is a collection of over 80 tropical islands and home to over 300,000 people. Its economy is largely based on agriculture and tourism, which was greatly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Together, through the Defence Cooperation Program, Vanuatu and Australia have been delivering key infrastructure, including the Cook and Tiaroa's barracks project since 2021, upgrading the facilities for the Vanuatu Mobile Force. The project is increasing the Vanuatu Mobile Force's operational capability, as well as boosting local industry and commercial activity, stimulating Vanuatu's economy. The project involves redeveloping the Cook Barracks in Port Vila and the Tiaroa's barracks in Luganville. Works at Cook Barracks include new engineer and vehicle workshops, accommodation, training facilities, fire station, medical center and chapel, as well as upgrades to essential services and roads. At Tiaroa's barracks, work includes a new armory and medical facilities. It is a huge infrastructure investment, creating over 300 local jobs at its peak, as well as training and upskilling workers, prioritizing local material, resources, and services. One of the construction workers on the project was Palti Abel, who was employed during the pandemic when most of the country and the world was still in lockdown.
Most shops, they closed down for the lockdown. We go through tests every morning. We came in, hygiene test, and they do all the stuff to make sure the work keeps on going. So at the end of the day, we can still get some income during the lockdown period, and it helps not only us, but our others around us too. They get to, like, we save food to others who doesn't have food, because we have this opportunity to keep on working when others couldn't. So we help our relatives, and especially those ones back in the islands. When I first came here, I don't know how to do construction stuff, but I work close with my boss. And when he explained, I understand. And then from then I get to build up my skills on construction. And now I love construction. Australians come, we get to understand each other more. Like English is similar to Pislama. And when you talk, even those who don't get good education, they can still understand.
Being employed to work on the cook barracks has meant more to Palti than just learning a new trade. He's had the chance to realize one of his personal dreams.
Yeah, when I got this job, I bought myself an oven. I always wanted to have one oven for my like big lots of bread. Just give them out. Yeah. And people want to start like putting order, placing orders. I said, big man, but I said, no. I only do that for fun. Like I want to bake in my own time. I don't come and give me order yet. And I've been baking. Yeah. Not enough recipe. I need more.
Major Nicholson Ben, or Ben as he is known, is the acting deputy commander of the Vanuatu Mobile Force. He has been with the Vanuatu Mobile Force for over 30 years and has undertaken leadership training in Australia under the DCP throughout his career. He has seen the impact of the partnership firsthand, with the redevelopment of the Cook and Tiaroa's barracks, the biggest project so far.
Cook Barracks was built, I think, probably in the 70s or 60s. And those buildings were old. And we haven't had any major repairs or anything since then. And when DCP came, did a major redevelopment of this camp, which I think it's a very significant redevelopment.
And there's like a conference thing.
Yeah, a conference room, and then there's the breakout room.
It changes the landscape, modernizing the area. People have that sense of belonging as well. Like they like the place, they want to work here. It helps build morale as well. It's not just building, but it comes with equipment as well inside.
The area that the Vanuatu Police Force covers is vast, and maintaining communications is a vital part of disaster response. Installation of critical infrastructure has enabled the Vanuatu government National Emergency Radio Network, upgrading Vanuatu's inter-island emergency network. It is a joint Vanuatu-Australia initiative delivered by the Defence Cooperation Programme. Lieutenant Johnny Sahi is the communications officer in the Vanuatu Police Force and has been working closely with the Australian Defence Force on the installation of the new National Emergency Radio Network.
Currently, there are 22 ADF communication specialists who are currently in Port Vila to roll out the Phase 3 TELDA of the Vanuatu Government National Emergency Radio Network project. So they are currently teaming up with our VBF communication techs to roll out this Phase 3 TELDA of the project. We're just finalizing the last few installations and then pretty much doing the maintenance of what had been installed during the Phase 1 and Phase 2. And I think with this system in place, I think it will greatly assist the Vanuatu Police Force in terms of daily police operations. I think it is also very important for Vanuatu at large when it comes to HADR operations. That's when we go through cyclone season. I think it will greatly help. What's very good about the high-frequency communication system is you can use it to communicate very far distance. With this new VMF facilities that's going on now, it really changes Cook's Barracks.
Oscar Papa, this is Oscar Bravo, this is Oscar Bravo, Roger. Receiving you loud and clear, receiving you loud and clear.
With this new communication system, it will really boost our communication system in terms of daily police operations.
Oscar Papa, radio check over. Oscar Papa, this is...
It's really fantastic working with my ADF colleagues. You know, a few of them, they've got wealth of, communication skills. Working with them, it's really fun, getting some new wisdom, getting some new, skills, knowledge in the area of, communications.
The genesis of this new radio network project can be traced back to 2015, in the aftermath of severe tropical cyclone Pam, resulting in the deaths of 16 people and widespread damage in Vanuatu, including destroying the Vanuatu Police radio system. Vanuatu Police Force Commissioner Colonel Robson Yavro has been working on getting the new national radio system to where it is today.
Since Tropical Cyclone Pam way back in 2015, it has destroyed the then radio network system that Vanuatu had. We've been working with the Australian government through the Defence Cooperation Program to develop and build a new emergency radio network for the Vanuatu government. And so recently, the Defence Cooperation Program has been engaged and working with us to roll out that program. It's in its final stages now. This radio network program will serve the Vanuatu Police Force and the community at large when it comes to natural disasters and responding to emergencies.
Major Ben is in charge of the disaster response teams and appreciates the benefits of the strong relationship between Australia and Vanuatu, particularly in times of crisis.
Vanuatu gets a lot of cyclone. In fact, we are preparing for one right now. Communication is very vital for our operations, so having that communication system in place is really good. During the last natural disaster, the cyclones, so HMS Canberra was here from Australia and came with helicopters as well, which provide our troops with the mobility to move from here to different parts of the country to help assist with the cyclone recovery.
Thank you and God bless you in the work that you do.
We have our own cultures, we have our own ways of doing things, but this be having different nationalities. They build that friendship, and that friendship is not about just the force or the training, but that friendship is also about global security as well.
Since Vanuatu's involvement in the Defense Cooperation Program from the early 1980s, Commissioner Yavro has been one of the many Vanuatu police officers to have benefited from the leadership training in Australia. It's given his team the opportunity to work side by side with the ADF.
The training prepares me well for my role, the roles that I did. It builds the capacity, it grounds me well in my leadership role. We have had Australian defense advisors who have been based mainly at the Vanuatu Mobile Forces Cook Barracks facilities. When we received the first patrol boat, we have had Australian maritime advisors and technical advisors who were based at the maritime wing. Our relationship with Australia through the Defense Cooperation Program has evolved over those years. It has had its challenges, but it has grown from strength to strength. I think this partnership is a milestone testament to the relationship that Vanuatu has with Australia and the developments over the recent years. I can always say that we are very grateful and thankful to have this partnership, because as a result of this relationship, we are able to transform the Vanuatu Police Force and the Vanuatu Police Force and to lift it from the previous where it stands and to what it is today.
Being able to maintain, monitor, and make a living from the ocean is integral to security and prosperity for island nations. The Pacific Maritime Security Program is an important part of the DCP, which includes providing patrol boats across the Pacific. Providing Guardian-class patrol boats, training and maintenance is a practical way to assist nations to protect and patrol their exclusive economic zones, or EEZ, which stretch 200 nautical miles or 370 kilometers from the shore. Across the expansive stretch of sea, maritime and naval units monitor for illegal fishing and crime, operate search and rescue missions, and protect their borders. Midshipman Paul Ulakai, an assistant navigational officer on the Voya Nahau Saliva, is optimistic the Guardian-class patrol boats will continue to support Tonga's tie with the water, while equipping the Navy to handle upcoming challenges.
Our history here in Tonga has a big tie with our waters. And I think now more than ever, it's been more important these days to secure our waters, because most of what we see and use here in Tonga travels by water. And I think it's what makes us proud in the Navy to protect our waters. One of the few challenges we've been facing lately is we've had a massive fleet of yachts and pleasure crafts coming in, and it poses a threat of drugs and smuggling illegal stuff into our country. That's what we're facing now in the Navy.
Deputy Director Cornelius Choini of the Maritime Division of the Royal Solomon Island Police Force is confident in the boat's capabilities in protecting the waters.
It is a valuable asset. Without those two boats, for remote areas, I don't think we can do things. Otherwise, that is the only source where we can reach on remote islands. Yeah, those two boats are very good boats, and they can cover wide areas from the far east and the far west. They are very capable boats. Need those vessels to look after and try and penalize those who broke the laws.
In my opinion, the Pacific nations working together to secure the waters is very important So having the capability of the guiding class patrol boat has been really vital in the past few years.
In late 2019 and into 2020, Australia turned to its Pacific partners for help when bushfires ravaged large parts of New South Wales and Victoria. Over 3,000 homes were destroyed and 33 people died in blazes that destroyed more than 24 million hectares of land, equivalent to just over half the size of Papua New Guinea. Defence Force partners from Fiji and PNG, as well as Canada, Indonesia, Japan, New Zealand, Singapore, and the United States, joined more than 6,500 ADF members in providing emergency relief, response, and recovery operations under Operation Bushfire Assist.
We're humbled and honored to be as part of the team helping out the communities.
Both sort of defence forces have a long and trusted sort of response to disaster.
90% of the troops are the engineers. They've trained with Australians, especially the troops that we are currently working with.
Lieutenant Sherwin Pohonai was a platoon commander and part of PNG's contingent deployed to the Victorian town of Omeo in regional Australia to fight bushfires as part of PNG's largest ever humanitarian deployments.
Wait, what are you guys doing there? We are doing the road clearance. Oh, good. You're the chainsaw gang?
Bushfire Assist back in Australia, it was one of the very important humanitarian deployment and one of the biggest deployment with Papua New Guinea Defence Force we did. We were sent to deployed to Omeo in the high country, Victoria. We stayed there for almost 2 months. The time there, it was a very devastating time for the Australians. And we all felt the moment, the time, the situation, and we feel what was happening there. And our deployment there was timely.
So that would then be a strategic containment line?
Creating our fire barriers and refueling tanks and building up fences and rescuing people out from their home when there's a northeast like alert coming off. So we were really working well with the fire services, the state services back in Victoria. It was a good joint task operation. It was very well planned, coordinated.
Currently, we are liaising with a non-government agency called Blaze Aid, and also the Forest Fire Management in terms of how we can do more tasks in terms of community engagement, and also
focus in on the firefight itself, and then be able to grab those other assignments. Like we said, we give a tasking out.
General Angus Campbell, Australia's Chief of Defence Force, personally thanked all the partners that came to help during Operation Bushfire Assist, remarking on the strength of the team effort.
Thank you also for our international friends who offered their assistance from around the world and rushed to our side in our time of need. We're grateful and will not forget your support. As a team, together, we faced one of the most challenging bushfire seasons in Australia's recent history.
When we went for bushfire, to me personally, I felt it was a sense of satisfaction to see the community smile. And when we were walking around, they just come and say thank you. And that really shows that we have a deep connection back.
Captain Billy Taki reflects on the engineers who responded to the call and partnered with the Australian Defence Force to assist the community and help to lighten the load during these hard times.
We sent a troop of engineers to assist them. And we saw that the damages and the effect that had on the community. And the boys came back and they shared their stories with us. And we saw from their reaction, the way they discussed how they interacted with the community, how it reflected on
At those moments of hard time, a small assistance could carry a big forward on lighting the load for those affected in the community. And for that, we are always here to assist our neighbors anytime they be called upon.
For over 50 years, the Defense Cooperation Program has continuously worked alongside partners to respond to shared security challenges, increase engagement, and empower countries through leadership development, infrastructure projects, humanitarian and disaster relief, and ongoing support. But the deepest ties are at the personal level, with enduring friendships, the foundation of projects, and responses at tactical, operational, and strategic levels.
The DCP program has done immensely, they've done wonders in terms of more so in capacity building. Well, I have a 13-year-old daughter who constantly asks me questions about what do I do. I explain to my daughter about the context that we exist in terms of geography, Fiji's location, Australia's location, how we are close to each other, and how we are interdependent. So when we talk about DCP, how I would explain to her is that the DCP provides a platform to be able for Australia to assist and provide some form of assistance to the RFMF. And for that, it helps me in my work and it empowers the RFMF as a whole. I just appreciate the fact that we are coexisting in this part of the world. In the midst of global power rivalries, in the midst of strategic competition, as much as we don't get involved in the domestic affairs of each other, we still maintain our relationship with every other nation. And navigating our way in the midst of those complexities, it's really unique in a sense that our relationship with each other has a long history behind it.